Today's episode of the Outline Podcast is brought to you by Audible. Audible is offering a 30-day free trial and one free audiobook to the listeners of this show. You can redeem this by going to www.audibletrial.com/outlinepod, or you can simply click the link in the show notes. All right, let's start the show.
The Outline with Kevin Dwayne. Kevin Dwayne. The Outline. With Kevin Dwayne. The Outline. With Kevin Dwayne. This is the Outline with Kevin Dwayne. Kevin Dwayne with Kevin Dwayne.
Yo, this is Kevin Dwayne, and this is the Outline Podcast, your weekly discussion of all things entertainment, LGBT culture, and a piece of encouragement for everyone. Hope you guys are having an amazing week. I have a great show up ahead. Later on, I have the co-host and fellow photographer of the What About Your Friends podcast, Frankie Rivera. We're going to be talking about boundaries and limits, how to set them and keep people at bay, because listen, we all know that we let people in and get comfortable. They start pushing our boundaries. So we talk about that a little bit. And it's a really great conversation. So I can't wait for you guys to hear that. Before, just wanted to check in and just see how everyone was doing with your week. This last weekend was very bittersweet for me. It had like some ups, but also it had like a really low down. So I'll start with that first. I just want to send condolences out to the family of Officer Antoine Tony. Officer Antoine Tony was actually a friend of mine. I met him 12 years ago when we were like 18 and 20. I was the older one. And knew him in LA, and we remained cool all that time. And then he actually moved to Georgia and ended up becoming an officer and patrolling and living in the same county as me. So he was always patrolling in the area. Well, unfortunately, days after he celebrated his 30th birthday, he was gunned down when he went out to check a suspicious car. And my heart really sunk when I read it. It blows my mind. Like, losing people is always tough, but it's just when it hits close to home like that. And one thing about it is I have a few friends who are cops and who work in law enforcement, and that's always been a fear of mine when, they tell me, that's their passion and what they want to go into. I always think about these things. And so it was just odd because on Saturday when it happened, another cop friend of mine posted on his page, and he didn't even know Antoine. He just posted like, oh, this is happening in the Atlanta area. And I just had this gut feeling, and I went and Googled it and saw his name, that he had been shot and killed. And it was wow. Like, it blew my mind, especially knowing him. He was such a kind-hearted guy. Like, I'm not saying that just to say it. Like, he was literally a sweet guy. Like, he'd do anything for anyone. He wanted to help people, and he was very passionate about bridging the gap between community and law enforcement. And so it's one of those cases where a good person was truly lost. And yeah, so that was the low part of the weekend. It was just, it's unbelievable. It's mad unbelievable, especially when people are close in age and young, and it just doesn't feel good. So condolences to his family and all his friends and all the people who lost a really great dude. So I just want to say that. On the other hand, some other things happened. Not as exciting considering what happened, but it was still things to talk about nonetheless. I went to a silent disco, and it was my second time going to one. But I have to say, if you've never been to a silent disco, you should go. Like, it's so much fun. I think it's a great social experiment. I think silent discos are good for people who are, for the most part, introverted, but don't mind being out in public and wanting to be a part of something. It's really, really cool because with them, if you're not familiar, what it is you go to a club or a venue, because there's a spot out here, a team out here called Urban Fet. I might be saying it wrong. It's FETES. Let me know if I'm saying it wrong, but I think it's called Urban Fets or something like that. Anywho, they throw silent parties all over Atlanta. So this one was actually at a club called Mix. So what it is you sign up, you get there, and they give you a pair of headphones. They take your ID, so they want to make sure you bring your headphones back. So yeah, but anywho, they give you a pair of headphones, and on the headphones they're attached to 3 stations. So there's 3 DJs there in the club, and it changes color on every station, so you can know which DJ is playing what. You can also see what other people are listening to. So it's super, super cool. So you're there and you're dancing. So say I'm on the blue station and it's playing Little Kim Crush on You. I'm vibing. Somebody else can have on the blue station, and we start vibing together. Complete stranger. You're just vibing because you're listening to the same song. So it's like a bonding moment. And if you're over that song, you change to the next station. And that's probably playing like Prince, When Doves Cry, and you jamming out to that. And the other one's probably playing Too Short, Shake That Monkey or some shit like that. And that's literally like some of the songs they played over the weekend. And it's super fun. Me, Stacy, and Mike, my friends, went, and we had a really good time. We were done by like midnight though. Like we got there, we went out around 9, and then we went to Midtown Moon, which used to be Burkhart's before that whole racist thing happened, and they closed it and they reopened it as Midtown Moon. It's the same bar. They didn't change anything but the name and the ownership, but the bar is still the same. It's got a big ass half moon hanging in there, but everything else still flows the same. So we went there, had some drinks. And shout out to the listener of the show. I believe his name was Terrence. Terrence spotted me out and came and spoke. So thank you so much. It's always interesting. Like, even though I know people listen to the show, it's still really cool when people come up to me and let me know that they enjoy the show. So thank you, Terrence. I appreciate that. You were really kind and unassuming, and it was awesome. So thank you so much. So I ran to him, and then we went to down the street, not just down the street, they're in the same complex. We went to Mix and they were there for like, it started at 10. So we were there like a good 2 hours and 15 minutes. And that was more than enough time to have a couple drinks, get sweaty, and be over it. And then after that, took my ass home. And then on Sunday, it was so last minute, I ended up going to the So Def 25th anniversary tour. So on Saturday morning, a friend of mine posted that he was going and was like, oh, who else is going? And in his post, it had the Ticketmaster link there. So I just clicked it just for the hell of it. I wasn't initially interested in going. I just figured like, okay, that's cool that they're having this, but I didn't plan on going to it. It was just like, oh, that's dope. Who cares? But it wasn't a big deal. But then I was going through it and I found like a floor seat for $100. Now, if you've been to shows, you know that floor seats don't typically are never $100. So I was like, you know what? Let me take my ass to the show. So I bought a ticket and I went, and the show was dope as fuck. Like, the show was amazing. Like, there were literally all of So Def was there except for Crisscross. And as you guys know, one of them has passed on, and the other one, I'm not sure where he is, the other Chris, but everyone was there. Like, you had Jermaine Dupri, you had Da Brat, you had Bow Wow, and I'll get back to him in a minute. You had Escape, Jagged Edge, Anthony Hamilton. Yes, he was on So Def for his first couple albums. People don't know that for some reason. You had them Franchise Boys. Monica was there because, Monica goes everywhere. She is not, like, Monica will be everywhere. Bone Crusher, Young Bloods, Omarion came out, Jacquees came out, Ludacris came out. There were so many people. Jaquan of Tipsy fame, he came out. Like, it was a 3-hour show with nothing but hits. Like, I made a playlist that you can listen to on Apple Music. named So Def Culture Currency Tour that you can find under my name if you follow me, that has most of the songs, and it's about 48 songs on that playlist. And I don't think that was even all the songs they did. I only did the highlights, and it was a 3-hour show, and it was actually really, really, really amazing. Like Escape brings it. I like Escape a lot. I like when they tour. I didn't get to see them the first go round, but I'm happy I got to see them in this kind of climate because it was a variety of other people. Da Brat is still dope as fuck. Like, it was a good ass show. And then here comes Bow Wow. So me and Bow Wow share the same birthday, except I was born in 1986 and he was born in 1987. I do not see the similarities in us. I just don't. Maybe it's a straight gay thing. I don't know. But that dude is a fucking diva. And he was a prima donna that night. And it's just, I don't know if it's a childhood star who falls from grace type situation. But he is just a fucking fool, if you ask me. Like, just period. So a good hour and a half of the show went by. And I thought we were Bow Wow free. I even texted my friend Brandon, who was oddly enough sitting in the row in front of me. We got our tickets at different times, but he actually ended up being in the same section in front of me. And I thought that was so cool. So I texted him and being like, oh, I guess Bow Wow isn't showing up. Because the way they did the show was everyone who was in the show sang one song a piece to kind of introduce themselves. And then they moved into corresponding sets. And so after I saw Escape a couple times and Jagged Edge a couple times, Anthony Hamilton a couple times, I was like, okay, so I guess Bow Wow couldn't get it together to be here. But oh no, because he's Bow Wow, he had to have his own interest. So it wasn't until the mid part of the show where they were going through the rap, they got to them Franchise Boys. And they got to the, ooh, I think they like me. Which Bow Wow was featured. And then he came out on top of the stage, super, super hype. And it was funny because the crowd was hype at first. And I was like, okay, so Atlanta still got love for Bow Wow. So that's dope. So I was like, okay, cool. Shocked the hell out of me. But, when it was just him on that stage, motherfuckers sat the entire fuck down. They started going to get drinks. They started going to the restroom. They started buying food. Like, people weren't here for him in that way. And it was funny because he was having a huge ego moment the whole time. So he's talking about, oh, I had to remind you motherfuckers of who I am and my impact and my sales. And he was just going on and on and on. Then he brought out Omarion and he's just like, yo, Omarion, I flew you all the way out here from LA. And I'm like, you just had to point out that you flew him out here, or did he fly himself out here just to help you out? Like, it was a lot. And so people only reacted to Bow Wow when he bought out people. So when he bought out Jacquees, people were like, oh shit, because Jacquees is like the hottest thing right now. And then Jacquees ended up singing Trip, which I'm sure that probably has its legal ramifications. So there's this whole drama going on with LMA and Jacquees, where Jacquees covered her song and he also tried to monetize it and send it to radio with the video. So 10 Summers sent a fucking cease and desist letter and said he couldn't perform it anymore. Naturally, because that's business. And so there's all this drama on it, and people think it's LMA's fault and all this shit. And it's just really, really stupid. So Bow Wow, I guess to bring drama to his performance, was like, oh, well, you should go ahead and just sing this song. So Jacquees ended up singing Trippin', and everybody, went up for it. And, that was that. And then once he left the stage, they sat their asses back down. Bow Wow's set was just long for no reason, honestly. It was just like, no one cares, man. So he brought Omarion out. Omarion, they sang Girlfriend, Let Me Hold You. And Omarion did his big hit from like 3 years ago with Janae and Chris Brown on it. And he also did Bump Bump Bump. He had a B2K shirt on. I thought that was very interesting. That was very interesting because he's so anti B2K. But he did Bump Bump Bump. And that was the end of Bow Wow's set. Thank God. But other than that, the show was dope. Just 3 hours of hits. It was absolutely amazing. Loved it. And then, one more thing I want to point out before we move into the interview with Frankie. T.I. and Tiny's show, Friends and Family Hustle. It came on Monday on VH1, and I'm digging it. First of all, though they have a very problematic relationship, is their relationship to have. I've always enjoyed their show because I think their kids are funny. It always had I always loved their family dynamic, so I was excited to see the show come back. But this season is called Friends and Family Hustle, so they've added Monica Toya Carter. I don't think it's her last name anymore because she's not married to Lil Wayne anymore, but Toya. And they also added LaToya Luckett to the show as well with her husband and father of her child. And I really, really enjoyed it. First of all, I love Monica on television, period. I just love Monica. Like, Monica is just one of those people that she's Bougetto. And they talk about that on the show. Like, she's hood, but she's also very classy. And, like, it's just fun watching her with her kids. Her kids are hilarious. And then I've missed Zanique and crazy ass Regine Carter on the screen because they were on Growing Up Hip Hop, but naturally they will be on VH1 now, so they're back on there. And it was actually a really fun watch. They even tackled T.I.'s infidelity head on, and in a very interesting way. And I don't know, I look forward to the rest of the season. It's a really fun watch. LaToya Luckett is hilarious. Her husband is fine and hilarious. And yeah, I really, really like it. So if you haven't checked it out, check it out and let me know your thoughts on the show. But I really, really enjoyed it. And that's that. So we're going to take a quick break and be right back with Frankie Rivera. All right, welcome back to the Outline Podcast. I have a very special guest on the show today. It is none other than photographer and co-host of What About Your Friends podcast, Frankie Rivera. Thank you for joining today.
Thank you so much for having me on, Kevin. This is truly an honor.
I'm super excited. Like, I'm glad that I could have you on the show. I know it was a long time coming. You mentioned interest a while ago, and it was just a matter of getting you on the schedule and getting it going. But I'm glad that we are finally here, and I'm excited to have you on. So let's talk about you for a bit. So let's start with the photography piece. We have that in common. How long have you been doing photography?
At least I want to say about 2-3 years. Like, I've always done it, but I never took it seriously until about 2 or 3 years ago. I just started taking pictures with my friends, and then I started thinking of different concepts. But then eventually I wanted to take it a step further and actually try to start telling stories.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like, if anyone, follows me on my photography Instagram, which is _boxguy, quick little plug. You guys will see, my style of photography and how it's, changed over the past maybe 2 or 3 years. So it all really began when I was like maybe 14. I just would walk around my neighborhood and take pictures of like the sunsets or the parks that were around. And, it was just something I really enjoyed, but I never took seriously until about 2 or 3 years ago.
It happens like that sometimes. Sometimes you just got to do it as a hobby and just enjoy it. And all of a sudden you kind of get pushed into it. That's how I felt. I felt like I was pushed into doing photography professionally. Like, it just kind of happened. And I think that's the beautiful part of having something that you're passionate about.
Right.
And I've seen your work. I love it. And I saw you posted recently, because we're friends on everything. And I saw you post recently that you said you're going to start naming your photos again.
Oh, no. What had happened was I used to always name them, but now it's hard to say. Laziness is a factor. So what if anyone goes on my photography Instagram, you'll see that almost every photo has a title. Not everything has a caption because I'm not the best with those. But lately I decided to only title the photos that I'm going to be displaying in like an art show. Because right now I'm working on a second project. And I decided to just give those titles just for more dramatic effect.
Nice. That's cool. I love them. Now, what does box guy mean?
Oh man. Okay, I'm gonna give you the Spark Notes version, because Box Guy is something that's near and dear to my heart. So before Box Guy happened, I had different Instagram names, and you try to get as creative as you can with these kind of things, but you also want to be distinct, and you want to make sure that people are able to find you. And during my process of practicing photography and really trying to get into it, I this was at a time when I lived with my co-host Charnel. Shout out to Charnel. Um, I we lived in an apartment and there was a Christmas tree that I had that we had, and there was a box underneath, and it was just a silver little box. I never really saw any use for it, but I just kept it in my room. And one day I was bored as hell, and I decided to put the box on my head, and I was like, "This looks cool. Let me see how this looks. Let me take a picture of it." And then instantly, I saw like a character. I was like, "This guy. This looks like somebody. This looks like I can tell a story." And nothing ever really happened until maybe about 2 years. No, a lot. Let me see, 2 or 3 years later. I started, taking pictures with my friends, and I started bringing the box with me, and they were like, "Oh, you can do something with this." And at the time, I didn't really believe them. I was like, maybe, it's not a priority. But then I started going through shit, and I decided to just channel every emotion and all my energy into creating a story. Um, and that's pretty much what you see with Box Guy. Box Guy, another long story short, is basically just somebody who was really, really innocent, really pure, and he ended up finding somebody that gave him a sense of like a sense of placement, or like a feeling of belonging, if you will. And um and he kind of, he gets really, really excited about it, but then that person ends up going away, and he kind of goes through the motions, and that's pretty much what the story of Box Guy is about. And then after I presented it and had an art show last year, I decided to just give myself that photography name.
That is actually a very beautiful story, and I didn't even expect it to even be so elaborate. I think that's awesome. Like, that's super cool. But it's also, I see it. You know how when people get production companies and they have these names, you're like, where'd that name come from? I totally see Box Guy being like a production, like later on the show, and then you have this great story to tell with it. And so that's
Yes,
really cool, like Box Guy Productions. I see that being a thing, and the fact that there's a whole story of like acceptance and stuff there. That's super damn cool. So
thank
kudos
you so
for
much.
that. Like, I like that a lot. Awesome, awesome. Okay, so let's talk about What About Your Friends podcast. All right. It's time for your elevator speech. My listeners are your elevator. Tell them about your show in the next 2 minutes.
Okay. So I am a co-host of a lovely little podcast called What About Your Friends? It's me and my co-host Charnel. If you guys, I'm pretty sure everybody knows who Charnel is if they listen. Um, he started this podcast almost 2 years ago. He wanted to, at first, he wanted to start a YouTube channel and talk about, social, political, personal, pop culture, everything, especially, coming from a perspective of, a queer man of color. Um, but he decided to just go with, a podcast because, doing a YouTube channel, you have to be a little bit more aware of lighting and how you look all the time, and that puts pressure on you. So I
Amen.
get it. Um, which is why I haven't done it yet. But so he asked me to be a part of it, and I just jumped at the opportunity. I said, we can make this a priority. We can, I'm down to talk about certain things, and I'm down to learn, in the process. There's things that we talked about in the very beginning that I may have a different perspective on now. And I've, like I said, I've learned a lot during that process. And we actually just had our very first live episode, which is our 100th episode. So you guys can check that out on SoundCloud, iTunes, Stitcher.
I love the
Um,
single ladies dance, by the way.
Thank you, thank you. But yeah, no, it's been a long time coming, and I'm super grateful that we've been accepted and embraced by the podcast community, and we've met so many different people, and we've had a bunch of people on our show. Um, so yeah, so that's pretty much it. You guys, like I said, check it out on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher. We're working on getting on Spotify and Google Play. It just hasn't happened yet.
Oh, well, Spotify just opened up. I got an email. They actually just opened up their podcast app, so make sure you apply with them again, like soon.
Gotcha, gotcha.
Yeah, in the last couple of weeks, I got an email from Spotify saying, "Oh, we're accepting new podcasts." So yeah, it might be the time to try now. I think they finally opened it up, so it's not so closed off because it was hell getting mine on there too. I was just like,
Right. I feel
Jesus.
like, at the very big, well, a couple months ago, and when we tried, I think it was like, well, you have to have like you have to have a poppin' podcast. You have to have like this many, listeners in order to be on Spotify.
Well, here's the thing. It's almost like it's like a networking thing. I would, no shade to Spotify, don't remove my podcast. But here's the thing. It's kind of like the club that has the line outside the door and you get inside and ain't that popping. So I'm on Spotify, but when I do my analytics, Spotify is actually less than Apple, less than SoundCloud, less than everything else. So I'm just like, okay, so I mean that's cute. I'm happy to be here, but when it comes down to like meat and potatoes, like Apple Podcast still takes the brunt, and I have other things that like iHeartRadio, everything else follows it. Spotify is probably of the lesser, but I think it's about being a part of that group, I guess.
Right, right.
So I guess I don't know, but that's just keeping it real, I guess. But that's awesome. Love it, love it, love it. You guys have a very good chemistry. So you guys like really, really good friends. 'Cause you said he was a roommate.
Yes. Okay. So, another part of history. So when I was 16, Charnel was my first boyfriend.
Oh, love it.
And it was a very quick and dramatic relationship, and we talk about it. We talk about it all the time, but we really talked about it during our live show, which was pretty fun. We ended up breaking up, and then a couple months went by. We became buddies again. We ended up living together, not right away. Some time had went on. Enough time to heal, and we lived together for maybe about 2 years. This was before the podcast. This was before anything. This was before Box Guy and all this other stuff. And yeah, no. So that's pretty much our relationship, and we've always had deep conversations about political, social stuff, and we've learned a lot from each other because we both have different upbringings, different backgrounds, but the thing that kind of brought us together was the fact that we felt the same way about a lot of the stuff that was happening around us.
Wow, that's absolutely beautiful, honestly. And I mean, that's a part of like just being gay, child. Like I for a moment, like for the longest time, a lot of my friends were people that I had been with before, and we're like, oh, we probably shouldn't have fucked. We probably should have just been friends, because that's why God sent you. Oh, I'm sorry. Like you just missed the mark. Like you were sent to my life, but I want some ass too, though. So, but for the longest time, like one of my I always joke, not so much now. Right now, in my friend circle, one of my closest friends, Charles, he and I started out dating when we were 18, but that was 14 years ago. So it's kind of like, if anyone's pressed about that, then that's their problem. Like it was literally like a 2 month, like how it goes, like 2 months, and then you fall out, then you become friends, and it happens that way sometimes. And then there's one other friend of mine that I dated for like 6 months that, yeah, it didn't work out. We didn't talk for like 2 years, and then we became really, really good friends. So I completely get it. Like it's one of those things where you have to navigate it, and I definitely navigate it better now. I can definitely separate people who are going to be friends versus who I'm trying to like be intimate with. So comes with the territory.
It's definitely hard to figure out when you're younger because you think, okay, I meet somebody and they seem cool, we vibe, and maybe we should be together, and life is then it's going to be all sunsets and gummy bears after, and then it's not.
Can we talk about it? Man, when I was 18, all I wanted was just to meet the one guy in the club that I was going to take out of the club. We were going to be in a relationship for like a year or two. Then we're going to live together. We're going to get married. We're going to have kids. Child, I tell you,
yeah.
a dream deferred. Okay.
Oh man, that just it opens up the door for so many conversations, because I remember being that that kid, and I'm still kind of that kid. I'm just, a lot has happened, so I just move with caution now.
Yeah, same here. I had to like get to a place where I had to admit to myself that deep down inside, though I talk a lot of shit and though I don't take my foot off of these niggas' necks, I am still a hopeless romantic deep down inside. So even when I'm being callous and nonchalant, there is a part of me that is still that 18-year-old who wants it to work out with one person.
Right.
And
yeah, I'm the same way.
Yeah, I had to admit it to myself. But I think we just, as we go through living as gay men, you adjust and you start navigating in a way that protects you. But it's important that you don't become a part of what you hate, though.
Right.
And so I don't want to become like this bitter being that pushes away love either, because that's not it either. I just operate differently. I'm very no nonsense, and I'm not going to play the game to achieve the ultimate goal. So it's real. It's real out here.
Right. And depending on who, you discuss these issues with, they can really make you feel like, you may have like too high of a standard, or you're not doing enough. And that's the hardest part, is to really have these kind of conversations with the right people, because it's like I said, it's easy to just talk to people about the stuff that you're going through, but if they're coming from a different place, and they're depending on what their sexuality is, how old they are, they can really kind of make you feel like maybe it is you, and sometimes it is, but sometimes it isn't.
It's a balanced effort. Like no one's perfect, we all know that. Everybody has their shit, and it's a matter of figuring out what shit you're able to deal with and what shit they're able to deal with. Everybody's gonna have their thing. It's a matter of finding the right amount of fucked up that works for you. But it's real, though. It's absolutely real. But then also, one thing people always ask me, I actually had a little, I guess I wouldn't call it a date, but like a little chat with someone, and he was asking me what I was looking for in a potential partner, and I was just like, honestly, self-awareness is important. You got to know what you are putting out into the world. You got to know that you aren't always a victim. You have to know that you are accountable for just as much, because there's so many people who operate under this idea that they are invincible and life is just happening to them and they can't see their own flaws. You have to be able to see your own shit. That's number one. Two, respect. Respect. Just respect me. I respect you. Respect me. Reciprocate, and don't play any games. And then we went to deeper levels of that, but everything else was very surface level. You know what I mean? It wasn't, I'm not asking for much. I'm not asking for you to be 6'3" with a 6-pack and a Mercedes. I don't care about that shit. It's certain tenets and behaviors that I look for, and I don't think those are high standards, so.
Right. No, I agree. And I think you really have to go through, not say a few people, but you have to learn, what your priorities are, because, when you're younger, when you're 16, you're like, okay, it'd be nice to have a guy that has a job and a car and, that's kind of popular, but not too popular. You have all these things in your mind. Mm-hmm. And then when you get older, that changes drastically. I don't give a damn what car you drive, as long as I don't have to pick you up every day. You know what I mean?
Ebo Shy, Edamahai, Robo Kashi. Listen, I don't care what you have and don't have, but understand this. You just need to be responsible for your own transportation.
Right.
You should not become a burden to me. Now, that is not the same thing as us being together already and you lose something. Different story.
Right.
If you lose something, I'm not going to be like, it's over. No, I'll work with you. But coming into it, you just got to be able to get to me. Because let me tell you, I don't know how it is where you are, but here there's a lot of I can't host, I can't drive people out here. And I'm like, so you want me to bring my black ass to your house? No, not your house, to your mama, grandma, godmama, whatever, whoever's house. Pick your ass up, bring you to my home, fuck you, and then bring you back? No, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
That is a premium package, and that's when you have to start thinking of rates and maybe
can I at least sit on your face? Because y'all be playing. It's a lot. It's a lot. So,
yeah, no. The guys that lately, not lately, but the people that I've been involved with, it's more of I can't come see you right now because I'm with my girlfriend who's not really my girlfriend. A lot of guys from where I live are on the DL, and that's, and it's really affected me. That's why it's hard for me to date.
Yeah. It's a tough one. I attract them too, but I don't know, I'm rebuking the spirit. So
You have to. At some point, that shit gets old. Like when, like I said, there's so much. It's so different when you're younger. You're like, oh my God, we're being secretive, we're hiding. It's it's dramatic. But now you're like, I don't have time to be your fucking secret.
yeah, and that's actually a really good segue. We're talking about setting limits and boundaries.
Let's get into it.
That's actually really good segue. So that's a perfect example dealing with I just had Daniel Driffin on the show last week, and we were talking about HIV and AIDS, and I mentioned DL people, and he was just saying like how he doesn't really care for the nomenclature of saying that, and so I'm trying to watch using that word too, because he had a good point about how we're all on these journeys. But when dealing with certain men who prefer to be discreet and have these different situations happening, what happens is you end up being this plan B all the time. Like you end up like it's like your time means nothing to these people. It's always kind of like, oh, I'm gonna be here at 8, but anything can happen where they're not gonna come, and now you're screwed over and stuff like that. Until you get to a place you're like, I'm not gonna put up with this. In fact, I'm good. I'm cool on you. I'm gonna cut you off. So that's a great example of limits and boundaries. So when I say boundaries, what comes to mind to you?
Okay, so if we're talking about dating or relationships, for me, I think the first thing that I think about is respect.
Mm-hmm.
And that's respect for me, for the people that I surround myself with, the people that I call family, unless it's truly necessary. Because there's times where, some of your friends may not like the person that you're dating, and, that's going to happen regardless. And those, sometimes you have to just address those privately. But if I'm talking to you about a situation, that I'm going through with my sister, and you start calling her a, low life bitch or whatever, like that says a lot about you. And it says that you don't really, you're kind of quick to jump the gun. So what are you going to do if we get into an argument? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh my God. Like that. I'm actually triggered by that because there are a lot of people out there who are like that. Like they feel like in that moment they're batting for you.
Right.
But they're also showing themselves. And you're like, wait a minute. If you are this quick to insult someone or do something in this way, then yeah, when we get into it, that means I'm next.
Right. And it's one of those things where you kind of, I think people get blinded by because you're caught up in love and all this other stuff, and you don't really notice the behavior until it's happening to you.
Mm-hmm. When that dick haze starts to fade, you be like, oh, wait a minute, because dick haze gets you, man. You need you be like, wait, it's around the 6-7 month mark is when it starts to kind of clear out. You be like, you know what? I don't like the way you chew.
Right.
One of your nostrils is uneven. You just start noticing all the flaws all of a sudden. They've been there the whole time, but all of a sudden,
right.
You really laugh really fucking loud, and you talk too much during the movie. So we'll start there. We'll start with dating then. So let's talk about setting limits and boundaries in dating. That's a good place. So how does this look for you? So let's say you are I hate talking. You're dating someone. You guys have been dating for a couple months. What are some, I'm trying to think. I want to place this so it's not like you grasping for straws. I wanted to make it really, you know what I mean? Like, okay, so I just want to talk about some of the limits you will have. Kind of like this. Like, I won't, like for instance, I'm not co-signing for shit for anybody. Like, we legit have to be married. That's a limit and a boundary for me. So that's what I kind of mean. Like, it's like one of those things like finances and stuff like that. Like if we live together, we can certainly discuss finances for sure because we're paying bills together. We're figuring things out. But as far as me going and signing contracts and we're not actually married or something like that, I'm not doing that. So that's a boundary for me. I may let you borrow $20. Sure. I may even give you $20. Sure. But when it comes to an entitlement of my money, my pen to my ATM card, that's a no, stuff like that. Setting limits like that. Do you have things like that you can think of when you're in relationships or dating?
Well, see, I was just going to kind of bounce off of what you just said. It's a little bit more of a general boundary, but it applies to so many people that are in my life. Like, just because I may have a certain title to you, or, we have so many years of friendship or whatever, that doesn't mean that you're entitled to my resources. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um, and I feel like people get that confused sometimes, especially with relationships, that they think that, okay, well, he makes this much money. I probably don't make as much. So, he should be able to put down a down payment on my new car. Like that's, I don't operate like that. And I've never been around people that operated like that, but I've seen it so many times. And I'm like, this doesn't seem right. Um, it seems like an argument waiting to happen because, a couple months down the road when you guys are arguing and then you want to go leave in your car and he's going to be like, oh no, where the fuck do you think you're going? That's my car. I put the down payment on it.
Right.
And so little things like that, it's kind of scary because then you really see like, what triggers people and what really motivates people to show their ass.
Yeah, I remember I had a guy. My best friend's gonna crack up when she hears this. I had a guy go in my wallet and get money out, and it was funny because it was like it was like it was like $10, but it was just the principle of like, did you really go in my wallet? It was a situation where like he was going to the store or something like that, and he's like, I'm going to go to the store real quick, and I checked my wallet. I was like, wait a minute, like. You took, and I asked him, I said, you took money. He's like, yeah, I took money out of your wallet to get the stuff. And I was just like, but you didn't ask me. Like, you said you were going to the store. You didn't ask me, like, did I? Like, it was just a whole thing. And he found nothing wrong with it, all because we were fucking. And I was just like, no, I have a problem with that. Like, I really do.
Yeah.
Like, you legit just would, like, what? Like.
That brings me to one of your famous quotes is like, who raised y'all?
Who raised y'all? Man, like, oh my God. And the audacity. Like, I don't know. But then also, another thing, a big one for me, a big boundary for me is privacy. Now, we live in a culture where we have this idea of like, if we together, I should be able to go through your phone. I should be able to do this, that, and the other. I just don't rock with that. And it's not because I'm not to be trusted. It's not because I'm going to cheat. It's not because of any of that shit. I just feel like I shouldn't lose my privacy just because I'm fucking you. And you shouldn't lose your privacy because there's still certain things that you shouldn't be privy to. For example, I have conversations with my friends about their personal things. I just don't feel like my partner needs to be in on those conversations if they are confided between me and my friends. You know what I mean? There's also levels of just like if I write a journal, if I have any things like that, I just have an issue with people feeling like they're entitled to my innermost feelings that are things that I don't want to express to the world, meaning anyone. So that's a boundary for me.
That's interesting. I haven't been in enough relationships, or not, they haven't been long enough for me to really go through that whole let me see your phone phase. Although Charnel will tell you a funny story of me finding a photo on his flip phone back in the day.
Yes, flip phone.
Yes, this was back in the day. So, but yeah, no, like for me, I don't have that kind of time. Like if I'm in a relationship and I'm with you, if I happen to just be on your phone for whatever reason, not because I'm snooping, but just because I'm like, let's say you need help with an app or something stupid and I need to show you how to do it. I don't feel the need to be like, all right, let me just, exit out of this and go digging.
Right.
Because you might end up digging and you might end up finding something that may be, a little bit triggering to you, but it's probably not a big deal. And sometimes things are. Absolutely. Everything is case by case because I'm getting older and I'm like, if you're going to cheat on me, fucking cheat on me. Just don't fucking lie to me, because then when I find out and then I, address the situation and you feel like you're going to lie to me, then you're insulting my intelligence.
That's a word right there for sure. And I like that you said something. You said, it may be a big deal to you, but it's really not. It may appear that way. And that, I think that happens a lot too, as well, right. Especially with especially being like in social media and stuff like that. There's always situations where flirting goes a little bit too far. Or right. Someone says something that you've had this joke forever and you two understand this joke. But if someone else came in, they'd be like, what the fuck is this? What does this mean? Blah, blah. It's like, yeah. That's just a joke. Like, we're not acting on this. It's not happening. And like, I feel you on that. I personally come from the belief that anything done in the dark is going to come to the light anyway. I like
Right.
you're gonna find out without snooping, because when you snoop, you find that it just is what it is. Anytime you go looking for something, your mindset is already on the ideal of distrust. I don't care what anybody says.
Right.
If you feel like you need to go through somebody's stuff, you already don't trust them. Keep it a buck.
I
If
agree.
you
I
if your
agree.
mind is already there, it's like what for what? For what? And here's the thing. I will totally show someone my phone, but don't feel entitled to it.
Right.
It's like, sure, can I? If we're joking, playing, or whatever, sure, go through it. Go through my pictures. I'll be like, just letting you know now, it's gonna be a lot of dicks and asses, and I'm not deleting any of them because I'm with you. So just get over yourself. Like, just understand you don't get to clean the collection out just because you're here right now. Sorry. I know you want to believe you're just like the only person I ever seen in life, but that's not how this worked. We both was out here thought before we met each other. Get over it. But other than that, it's like, okay, cool. You can see it, but don't feel entitled to it. And I feel people have this weird entitlement to people's privacy. And that is a strong no for me. Because if I am being loyal to you and I am being trustworthy and I am giving you no reason not to trust me outside of not showing you my phone, then we should be good. But so many people hop in these relationships thinking like, no, if you don't let me see your phone, that means you cheating and I can't trust you. And I'm like, that is a really bad false equivalency. And y'all got to stop this shit. But it's the culture we live in. It is like every reality show talks about phones. Oh, I want to see that phone. I want to see them DMs. I want to see what these bitches are saying to you. And I'm just like, this is a lot. This is it's almost too much ado about nothing as well. And I know me, when I date people tend to like, we tend to be together a lot. It's one of those things like, when would I have time to cheat on you if you're always here? Like, and we're always fucking like when. So I don't know. That's another boundary for sure, is privacy. I have no problem letting people in. I have no problem being vulnerable. I have no problem showing people things. Just don't feel entitled to it. I just feel like there's certain boundaries that we shouldn't lose. I mean, even growing up, I had journals and stuff. My mom wasn't the type who would be in my room rummaging through stuff either, because she also respected that there's some things that he needs for himself. It's a part of being individual and human, I think. I don't know, but I know there's so many people I know disagree with me for sure. Like, people really feel like, no, if you're in a relationship, there should be nothing hidden. I understand the idea that nothing should be hidden that pertains to your partner. Anything that's putting them at danger or putting them at a disadvantage or anything that's disloyal to them, absolutely not. However, there are some things that they don't have to be privy to. You're just making them privy to it just because you feel like that's the thing to do. And I don't know. It's a hard divide there. And maybe that's why I'm single. I don't know, but I just can't do it.
No, I mean, I think you definitely have some valid points when it comes to that. Because I feel like the whole "let me see your phone whenever I want" mentality is a bit childish, and but it's something that people are so used to. And like I said before, if you're around certain people that put certain things in your head, like, "Oh, girl, you got to check his phone once a week. What are you doing?" It's you can kind of get lost in it, and you're like, "Oh, maybe I should be checking his phone a week." He said he went to the store an hour ago, but he still isn't home yet, and we live 2 minutes away from the store. So little things like that, then you start getting paranoid, and you start thinking like, that extra half hour he was gone, it could have been traffic, it could have been him taking the scenic route, whatever. You're thinking he went to go hit it and quit it.
And at that point, break up with him, sis. Cause like, you already done, like, just break up. What's the point?
But they can't because he put down the $1,000 payment on the car.
Oh my God. Like, and see, that ownership piece is just so tough, because that's when you start getting to the trackers, and then and another one is social media. Social media is tough because this is before you and I even started like conversing on like social media and stuff like that. But I was in a long-term relationship 3 years ago, and it was very public. Like, it was very public. Like, we were friends. We posted pictures, the whole thing, the whole thing. And it was fine. Like, I had no problem with it. But of course, naturally, like people say, when you have a public relationship, that means the fallout is going to be public too. And so naturally, when we broke up, people were in my DMs like, "I don't see you posting no more." That messy shit. I don't see you posting no more. Everything all right? Wait a, that
where your man at?
Right? And but it's like this weird kind of like they wanted you to fail anyway, so they seek joy in it. And I personally said, I don't really want to go through that again. I honestly just don't want to go through the idea of having to explain myself to people when they were like, it was just me and him. So it's kind of like, I don't really owe you an explanation. And people have this weird entitlement, once again, that just because you post online that they need to be privy to all the whereabouts. No. You get to see what I show you. And that's it. You're not privy to all the ins and outs. You see what the fuck I show you, and that's just that. But people have this whole thing like, no, when you break up, we want to know. I don't care what you want to know. You can guess all you want, and that's your business, but that's my business. And so I personally was like, okay, I learned my lesson. I don't want to go through this again. So I would rather have a private relationship. Now, there are a lot of people out there who feel like that is a problem. There are people like, oh, hell no. If he don't post you, that means he got a bunch of hoes, that he don't want them to know that he in a relationship with him. If he don't put you on his snap, there's people who really believe that if it's not on social media, it's not a real relationship. And that's a problem. But I have an issue with that because I'm like, that's not why I don't want to do it. I just don't want to have to go through what I went through already with the last one. But some people, it's tough.
It's very tough, and I haven't been through that situation specifically, at least not yet, because, like I said, everybody was kind of on the DL when I was messing with him. So everyone, every one of their friends just thought they were single and straight. So obviously that was an issue for me, down the road. But now I'm just a little bit more. I don't know. I guess I don't feel the need to ever be somebody's like trophy or anything like that. It'd be nice, every once in a while if we posted a picture together, but it doesn't have to be a thing where every week you're posting a picture of me in this dramatic, exaggerated post like, oh my God, you're the light to my darkness and my love burns for you with the white hot intensity of 1,000 suns.
God.
And, But I think people are so used to that. Like the people that expect you, to explain everything that's happening in your life, they're so used to, like the cycle and the pattern of events that happens during a breakup or, when things get rocky because, you'll see it. Like there are people that will have an argument or maybe they broke up for like 2 days or something and they instantly go to social media and just start acting a fool.
Mm-hmm. Passive aggressive as fuck.
Right. And people are so used to that they feed into it and they're like, okay, so now I know somebody's going through it. Let me try to get at them while they're hot.
Well, it's also entertainment for them. And that's my issue with it. I have no problem sharing my love for something. It was never there's a fine line between just expressing absolute joy with someone and showing off. My relationship was never about showing off. It was just me being genuinely happy with him and posting it.
Right.
But on the same token, I believe in curation. I'm not going to post our bad days for what? For what? Why would I put that into the world so you guys can add to the bullshit? No, absolutely not. And so it's a weird divide. Like you said, I have no problem. Like I love expressing myself. I love stuff like that, showing things like that. I just don't want to be in that type of space. Honestly, I would prefer that me and my partner didn't even follow each other on social media. And here's why. We wouldn't have shit to talk about when we were together. I don't really care for the going through the profile all day and saying, oh, who's this? Or, oh, you was here? Oh, you went here? I would rather not follow my partner. If they want to follow me, I don't really give a damn. But I would rather not follow them because I just don't want all that insight all day, all night. Like I would rather when we're together, we can actually have a conversation. You can tell me about how your day went. You can tell me about how shit happens. I don't want that much access all day, because I also think it also wears us thin. It makes us tired of one another quickly because it's too much. That's my.
Right. No, I
So it's
agree.
like, you can follow me, sure, if you want to. I just don't need to follow you, and I don't want you to think that it's me not claiming you. And it's
Right,
hard
right.
to explain that to people. It's so hard. Like, I don't really want to be your Facebook friends, because I don't really want to see your passive aggressive ass statements all day. And one thing on top of that is, a lot of people pose online, and that bothers me. I don't want to be with somebody and see them post when I know that's not really who they are. That would drive me crazy.
Mm.
So it's like, I would just rather not. Can we just not? And we just have we have each other's numbers and phone numbers. We can FaceTime, we can talk, we can do all this shit all day. We can be with one another, but I don't need this level of access to you online. I just don't. I just don't.
That's very interesting, and I never ever thought of it that way because, from my past relationships or, past people that I've dealt with, I, always followed them. And, when stuff starts to get rocky, then start unfollowing, or you start, unfollowing their friends, and that's when it gets messy or whatever. And then you're, even though you unfollowed them, you're checking their post every week. This was, during a dramatic time. But everyone's so used to that. And I remember not too long ago having conversations with like my cousins or my sisters, and they're like, "Oh, do you still follow homeboy? Check his page. I want to see what he wrote." And it's like, you shouldn't have this kind of time. Go out and find somebody else. And I guess a lot of it has to do with me getting older and really understanding what like the priorities are, because I'm at a point where I'm like, if people want to act a fool, they're going to act a fool. Me checking your profile or giving you another view or whatever isn't going to change anything. It's just going to build your ego. And I'll be damned if I'm, 27 and I'm still freaking building up egos only to be let down.
Listen, I ain't got to block who I don't follow. Okay. Like, like my damn ex, like I used to hate it. Like, he would be upset with me and wouldn't tell me, but go on Facebook and be passive aggressive. I'm like, nigga, I'm in the next room. Like, come in here and tell me. But when I ask you what's wrong, you say nothing. But you go to Facebook talking about, oh, like, it's like this whole post about bathrooms. Are you saying I need to clean my bathroom? Like, what the fuck? Like, come to me.
I think you know what it is. I think they're looking for that sense of validation that you don't always get during arguments. And, and sometimes people can get it when they get that one like, or if they get that one comment, and it's sad.
And I can't compete with that. I cannot compete with that, like, at all. So I'm like, can we just not? So that's it. I'm trying to think if there are any other, I mean, I'm sure there's several other boundaries, but I also want to move on to other levels as well. So let's move to family. Cause I think family is a very, very, very important one. There was, this guy that I knew, and he was so loyal to his family because, we're told, like, that's your family. But I recognized over time that they weren't reciprocating the same sacrifices that he was. Like, he'd be working all the time and doing all this stuff to support and do all this shit, but he wasn't getting in return. And I would always kind of be perplexed. And also because I know my limits and I don't overstep my bounds, I didn't say anything to him about it, because people get very sensitive when you talk about their family. Okay? I've learned you just keep your fucking mouth shut, because that's how you get cussed out. But I would watch and be like, why is he overexerting himself? And none of his family, sisters, brothers, cousins, all these people who he is killing himself for, they just take and don't give. But he felt like he was indebted to them. And I'm just like, so how do you set limits with family?
Oh man. See, I think it kind of goes into what I was saying earlier about, like, being entitled to people's resources just because of their title. And I've had situations with family members that just felt entitled to, like, my money because I, don't have kids and I don't have all these other responsibilities that they have, or so they think. So basically, if they ask you for $20, and let's say you just don't want to give it to them, or you don't have it on your own, they want to kind of drag you through the mud and be like, well, why don't you have $20? You make this much and you don't have any kids and this and that. I'm like, well, because I live my own fucking life.
And Sally Mae is real. Like, listen, just because I don't. In fact, people don't realize the government actually punishes single people. Like,
Right.
I'm taxed way more because I'm not married with a child. So I actually have
Right.
I don't get dividends every tax time for kids. So kiss all of my ass for that. Money is a big one with family. Money is a big one. That was a big issue for me. Not a big issue, but it was always this kind of weird thing of like, if someone in your family is struggling, you're like, okay, I want to help you, but I'm not going to ignore my own livelihood to help you. It's like, I had to learn to help within reason. So I can put some money on your rent, but I'm going to pay my rent in full. I'm not going
Right.
to sacrifice my rent to pay your rent in full. You know what I mean? I'm still
Yeah.
giving to you, but I'm not taking from me to where I'm fucking myself over. And I feel like some people don't see that. They just say, oh no, I have to be sacrificial. I have to be completely sacrificial to my family. And I'm like, I get it, but don't be dumb about it. Like, you gotta,
Yeah.
like, don't fuck yourself over, especially if they're not gonna dig you out of the hole that you're putting yourself in to help them out.
Right. And that's what I've seen a lot. I don't know if you know this about me, but I used to live in somewhat of like a bachelor pad with my best friend and a few guys from our high school who were all straight, and I was the only fucking gay one. And his dad was the owner of the house, and he told him he could have roommates and stuff in order to pay the bills. And for the first couple of months it was fine, and then people started not paying their bills. It started getting crazy, and this was something that I realize I should have just did this when I was like 19 or 20, not 25. um and there was a point where there was a couple rooms empty, and his relatives from Jamaica wanted to come and spend the summer up here and live rent free, and I was not having that. I was very upset about it, and we've had many conversations about it. But it didn't destroy our friendship, thank God. But I noticed that his family started treating him and his father kind of like like they were they were kind of what's the word? I guess you could say yeah, like a crutch, or they were like
Oh,
leeching off of this stuff, and it really showed because I would see him, and he would come upstairs, he'd go to his room, and he'd be like, well, I didn't eat today because I had to pay for this one to go to this place to apply for a job, or this and that. And I'm like, so you didn't eat today because you had to do all this stuff for somebody who doesn't live here, doesn't pay any bills, is probably not even going to be here in the next 5 months. I said, what are
mm-hmm.
you doing? But
That
when
that's exactly it. That is the pinnacle of that is it. Like, what do you get in return? And I'm not
Right.
saying that. I know that there is especially people who are very, very religious. There's this
Hmm.
idea that they're saving up coins for heaven or something or whatever. I don't know.
I'm sorry,
But
I don't mean to
oh
laugh.
no, you can laugh. Like, I think people feel like I have to give, and it's just gonna give me spinner rims on my car in heaven. And but I look at it from a no. I need to know that I'm doing this for you because if I am in need, you'll do it for me. I'm sorry. There has to be value there. And there's so many people who, like you said, they will not eat to help somebody else who's already benefiting in the first place. Like you said, you're already living rent free. Okay. You're
Right,
already doing
right.
all this stuff, but now I'm going out of my pocket to help you get on, but I'm sacrificing my own livelihood. And I'm like, nah, you're going to have to set a better limit.
Right.
Like, you're going to have to
And
set a
it,
better, yeah.
and so many times I think, depending on, what kind of family you come from and the upbringing and just like the morals that they instill in you when you're younger, like it really does affect the way the way you treat others and the way you treat yourself. And me personally, I got to a point where I was like, not to get too much into my personal life, but like my mother would always try to tell me to, oh, try to get your brother a job at where you work, this, and that. And I'm like, listen, my brother has his own deep, dark issues, and I don't need to bring that into my place of employment or whatever. I said, I need to be the best that I can be. And then maybe we can talk about, referring people or something like that. But for it to be that close, to me, it's just too much of a risk.
Especially if I know you ain't shit. Are you kidding me? Like, oh my God. Okay. Great example. The Braxton family. That is
Yes.
the best example I have. Like, Tony Braxton was shamed and guilted by her mother for years just for going solo.
Right.
Like, L.A. Reid and Babyface didn't want all of them. They're like, listen, Tamar's 13 and you're in your 20s. How are we going to market this? How are we going to market a band that goes from 13 to 24? It doesn't work. We want you. And so Tony was like, okay, I'm going to go solo. And her mother shamed her, made her feel guilty, made her feel like it was the devil trying to separate the family. And she held this guilt of like, oh, I have to help my sisters. I have to help my sisters. And literally, she's at a point now, have you watched the last show, where she's like, I don't like my family. It's because of like all the pressure they put on her to put on the other people. And it's like, but I'm out here grinding. I'm out here doing all this stuff. I'm out here doing it. All you're doing is getting a meal ticket. Right. And being walked through the door. So it's like one of those things like, you're not entitled to what I have. Like, of course, we all want to put people on. I would love to put on my friends and family within reason, but it's not like, don't feel entitled to it. And like you said, it becomes like it's instilled in you from like childhood. So I'm sure like as Tony, well, I read her biography. When she was growing up, she said her parents were very religious and always instilled the idea of family. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with saying family first. There's nothing wrong with saying, you know, blood is thicker than water and all that shit. That's great. But make sure the actions match it. Because because we're in the same bloodline doesn't mean you get to treat me any kind of way. And that pushes me to the final point of family when it comes to sexuality. I see so many gay men who aren't respected by their own fucking family, but yet they alter themselves to make their family comfortable. And they deny parts of themselves and give so much of themselves, but their family won't do the same for them.
See, okay, this is a little bit of a tough topic to discuss, only because when I was coming out, I was 15, and I was more concerned about my friends and being accepted at school. And during that time, me and my father had a falling out, so I wasn't concerned about his opinion at all. And I was ready to literally throw everything out the window when it came to family, because I was like, I need to do this for myself. I can't be concerned if my uncles or my godfather or my aunts or whoever doesn't like or doesn't accept who I am. Like, I literally threw all that out the window. But not to say that I'm like hesitant, but you know, because I haven't been dating like that. But if I were to be dating somebody and, you know, it started going well and, you know, I was more confident in it, and it came down to bringing them around family members for holidays or, you know, or special events or anything like that, I'd be a little hesitant. And it's only, you know, it's only for this, like for them, not for me, because I can handle my own when it comes to my family. I have no problem cursing out an aunt or uncle when it comes to that topic, you know? Yeah. You know, because there's certain things that, you know, they tell you, you know, you have to respect all this time. But it's like, you know, listen, I've been called gay and weird and all these other names by my uncles, and that has not stopped me from, you know, from going off. And you can use love as the excuse, like, no, you know, I love you, this, and that. It's like, okay, well, you said what you said and you meant it. Right. You weren't, and you said it to hurt me. So that just makes you even more, that just means you ain't shit. You know what I mean? Trash. And, right. And when it comes down to that, it's like I said, I can handle my own, but I'll be damned if I'm going to, you know, have the person that I'm, you know, involved with, or the person that I'm dating, you know, be subject to that. And because then it's like, you know, how do you explain that? How do you, you know, heal from that situation when the person you're dating, their family, you know, decides to say certain things like that to you or make you feel uncomfortable? And, you know, we're all trying to find a fucking sense of home within each other. And sometimes, you know, that it goes into other conversations, but sometimes, you know, when you feel like you have it and then something like that happens, it's like, damn, like, am I in this, you know, should I be in this situation? Is it right for me? Are these signs? You know, it can really mess with a person.
Yeah. And I'll be damn, like, if I'm someone's partner and they want to take me to Thanksgiving or wherever, and they want me to pretend to be their roommate or something. Yeah, no, sorry. Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. I would just rather not go. And I had an episode about this, I want to say earlier this year, where I'm like, just don't invite me. Like, if you invite me to somewhere and you're asking me to be someone else, I'd rather not go. Because I'm not even flamboyant to begin with, first of all. Like, I'm literally just me. I may cuss a lot. I may talk about a lot of improvisation, you know what I mean? But when it comes to like, it's like whatever. But like, for you to say, oh, when we get here, just don't, I'll stay home. I'll stay
Yeah.
home. What's the point? I don't need macaroni and cheese and collard greens this year. It's cool. Like, I'll be all right. Like, at the house, I'll whip something up and watch the Christmas Story all day on marathon. Like, it's cool. Like,
Right.
and so many people literally become someone else just so they can say they have family. And I just don't come. I would rather not have family than put myself through that. And that's just my personal view. I know that I remember when I first moved to Georgia, because I don't have a lot of family in Georgia. Like, I have my cousin, I have people here, but someone's like, well, if you know anybody, make sure you keep in touch with them, because it gets real cold in Georgia. What they mean is, anything can happen to you, and you should always have somebody to do. But I don't live my life that way. I live my life knowing that the universe has my back. Everything that I've been through always worked out. So if I fell on hard times, I know that something will work out in the way that it needs to for me to be okay. So I'm not going to keep connections to people who actually don't like me for the sake of a rainy day.
Right.
That's foolish to me. Whereas some people feel like, no, this is my family. It's my family. But your family don't actually like you.
Yeah, and that's one of the hardest pills to swallow. And I think, I don't know if you remember, but I made a status about, people that, that we call friends and family, and their problematic behaviors or their toxic behaviors. And, we kind of get blinded by, by love or lust or whatever, or by the titles that they are to us. And that affects the way the way we judge them, or the way we witness what's happening. We turn a cheek to a lot of things. And I've had conversations like this with plenty of my friends that, they're either their direct parents or, family members aren't treating them the right way, but they're always around them, and they're always, they're loyal to them. And I'm like, you can't get, you lose, I feel like you lose a sense of like what's right and what's wrong sometimes when it comes to like loyalty. And I never want to put myself in a situation where, I'm defending or I'm standing by somebody who is just dead wrong, just because of their title to me.
Blind loyalty. Blind
right.
loyalty. I always think about it in cases of like molestation and rape. I always think about that woman or that man who has a brother and sister who has touched their child, and they would protect that brother or sister. Like, they literally would choose their brother or sister over their child. And it blows my mind. It's like, I can't send my brother to jail. I can't send but your brother touched your offspring.
Right.
And caused them trauma. I just can't. I can't send my brother or sister to jail. And this is really the issue we have in the world in general, is blind loyalty. So in spite of whatever you do wrong, I'm going to find some kind of way to make it right. And I'm like, that's not healthy.
It isn't, but I think people are so used to that. And like I said, they're so used to certain patterns and certain cycles. It's really hard to break away sometimes. And it's hard to be the one to, to call shit out and, to really stand up and live in your truth. Not everyone's willing to do that. And sometimes they'll make certain sacrifices that they probably feel isn't right, but it doesn't it doesn't top what their situation with their brother, or who they're trying to cover up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, wow.
It's hard. It's really hard. There's so many stories I've seen that people, they blame their children, or they'll blame society. They'll blame TV shows. Like you know what I'm talking about when I say these things. And they're just going they're going all types of ways to really deflect from the real issue.
They gaslight the fuck out of you.
Right. And they'll really make you feel like you're the issue. You did this. Like, you are the reason why this happened to you.
Are you sure he wasn't just hugging you? Are you sure, like,
right.
You do act a little crazy something, like, that will gaslight the fuck out of you. And it's
right.
It's tough. And so it's like one of those things, setting limits. For me, I set hella limits. I used to be a pushover, and so it comes from experience. I wasn't always this way, but I used to be a pushover. I wanted the validation, the comfort of friends and family, and then I got to a point where I was like, nah, fuck all this. Like, for what? And so
Right.
I don't do blind loyalty. Like you said, wrong is wrong.
Yes,
And so if you disrespect me, if you do things I don't just, my brother could fucking do something crazy as fuck. Just because he's my brother, I'm not gonna be like, oh, I got your back. No, if you did something wrong, you did something wrong, man. And I had to really see that with just me being gay. Like, there's some people in my family that honestly drive me crazy because they love to be in my comments and all this shit. Oh, I support you, and oh, I love you, and blah, blah. And as soon as they're mad at a man, what do? Call him a fag. Say, call him a pussy. I'm just like, interesting. So that's an insult to you. So how do you love me? And how do you support me? Like, you don't see the connection there, like, at all. They just kind of just shrug it off. And I'm just like, okay. And I just, nah. No, limits and boundaries. Dude,
Right.
I did not expect this to be such a flowing conversation. There's so many different levels we can go to this, but it might have to be a part two. But I appreciate you being on the show. Let people know where they can find you, man.
You guys can find me on Twitter at Frankie L. Rivera, Instagram, Frankie.L.Rivera, photography, Instagram _boxguy, and Snapchat, Frankie.Rivera. I almost fucked that up.
Yes, I mean, and all this will be in the show notes because ain't nobody trying to type nothing in. So I'll put it in the show notes so you guys can just click and follow him. Make sure you guys listen to the What About Your Friends podcast as well. It's a great show. And make sure you are also subscribed to this show and sharing it with your friends and all that good stuff. And until then, I'll talk to you all next week. Peace out.
Bye-bye.